Hello, everybody. How is everyone doing? You good? Oh my goodness. Hi, Nolutando. Hi, Gwen. Hi, Love Wins Movement. Oh, Love Wins. You say you've got the house to yourself and you get to listen. Congratulations. Some much needed you time. Hi, Kathy. How is everyone doing? How are you keeping? Oh my days. We are still reverberating from the news about Harry and Meghan's trip to Nigeria. Welcome to Isabella Banks' YouTube channel where we discuss all things Harry, Meghan, and their level up journey. If you're new here, I'm Wheezy, and it's absolutely freaking fantastic to meet you virtually. How is your week going so far? Over here, the talk shows, the newspapers, and all the media cannot stop talking about Harry and Meghan's trip to Nigeria. At first, they were on the back foot trying to figure out what they were going for and what the reception would be like in Nigeria. Now they are back to their regularly scheduled programming of trying to turn the trip into what it is not, and which is something negative. Um, so, as per usual, we're going to be discussing the latest events in the wacky world of the toxic British media, the British royal family, and how Harry and Meghan are dealing with the toxic British media. Because if they are not toxic, I don't know what they are. So, this video is going to be one of two videos that I'm going to be doing today. I have started a new format where I do consecutive videos just because it helps with the views generation for my channel and it helps with um, SEO for my channel, helps to get my channel content seen by a greater audience. And so I think the plan is to upscale to 2 or 3 videos, depending on the amount of energy I have, to be honest, in a day. So today though, I know for certain I'm going to be doing just 2 videos, and this is the first one. And immediately after the first one, it will be followed 5 or 10 minutes later by the second. You're welcome to me for the journey. And let's get started. So, guys, as you are aware, I'm sure that the Invictus Games announced on Twitter, announced the finalists of the process for selecting who is going to host the Invictus Games, and you've got Birmingham, UK, and Washington, D.C. So you can guess how people reacted to that. It's funny though, for all the talk that there is going on about Harry and Meghan's trip to the UK, there's not so much conversation about the UK being shortlisted to host the Invictus Games. It's quite interesting that while they are bidding to host the Invictus Games, they are still publishing false negative stories about Harry and Meghan in the media. I have done a slight deep dive into why that would be, apart from the obvious things. But I think the dynamic between the situation with the Invictus Games, with the UK trying to host the Invictus Games, and the media continuing their smear campaign against Harry and Meghan, I find it quite interesting. So I did a deep dive and I figured some things out. So on the day that the announcement was made, if you had gone to the Invictus Games Twitter account, the comments were in shambles. Most of it, or I have to admit that I was also there, saying, no, 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 the UK cannot win because Harry and Meghan are not safe here in the UK. They have no respect for the veterans. They're very petty. All they would want to do is to drive the Invictus Games down into the ground so that they can say the Invictus Games has failed. And at that point, they will be looking to attach Harry's name to it. At the moment, they're doing everything they can to associate, take away, smear just because it's successful. If someone has, I mean, this is something that I've always been told when I was growing up. We had, like, when older people are trying to motivate you, they would tend to say, you never get given more than you can handle. It's because your life is great, and this is why you're experiencing all these challenges, and that the weed is never supposed to be pulled up from the tar, that they are supposed to grow up together, and one is supposed to overcome the other. I am I think we're too close to our lives to actually see it happening in our own lives. But if you look at Harry and Meghan's life, you can actually see like this problem is not going anywhere. It's going to be around all the rest of their days. The challenge Harry and Meghan have, which is what I have said, before now. And although some people disagreed with me, but my mind hasn't changed because the media, the toxic British media, are not going any place anytime soon. They have dug their heels in. And so Harry and Meghan are going to have to work hard to get bigger than the situation so that they can handle all the people attacking them. When you're doing good, it attracts all the evils to you. And one of the reasons people gave in the comment section of the Invictus Games was that Harry and Meghan are being targeted by neo Nazis. And it is true. Look at the articles. These are the articles we have on the screen, right? And anyway, before we could absorb that bit of news, it was confirmed that Harry and Meghan were going to Nigeria, and then the rumor mill went into overdrive. But you know, when America, and I love you guys for it, and I can't complain because the UK are doing it to themselves at this point. But the campaign to be able to host the Invictus Games now began fully in America because you had people there. We had articles like this one on the screen: why Britain's towns and cities are going busts, and basically doing a hit job on Birmingham. I do not blame them one bit. I do not blame them one bit. It's quite sad to see that the UK would not be able to get it, and just because, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Before I discuss the next bit, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead to do so. Please hit the subscribe button if this is your first time on here. This is the number one way you can appreciate this channel. If you'd like to take it one step further, please go ahead to smash the like button and leave a comment in the comment section. If you don't know what to say, please leave an emoji appreciating the video in the comment section. To all my regular subscribers, a huge thank you for your unconditional support. And so now let's continue, right? So this is a headline which popped up today. Minister sorry as veterans find ID cards not valid for English elections. So we have an election going on in the UK today. Let me even just do a checkup on who's won. So it's local elections, just council elections, right? And what they have been trying to do is to get people to bring their photo ID to the polling booths, and without the photo ID, you will be turned back and you will be prevented from voting. Is that something that happens in America? Do people have to bring their photo ID to the polling booths? Hi, John Jenkins. How are you? Hey, Connie Balmer. Hi, Rafaela. It's been a while. How you been? Hi, Roslyn. So Lovewind says yes. In Canada, you have to bring your photo ID with the polling booth. Okay, with you to the polling booth. In UK, this is actually the first time that has been required, and I think it was last year that we had Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is one of the MPs, admitting that they changed the rule because they found out that it's mostly immigrants who don't have their paperwork, who they were trying to prevent from going to vote, and that most of the people who are conservatives and can vote would be conservatives, whereas it's mostly the labor people who would be immigrants and don't have ID and therefore would not be able to vote. So this was their own way of gerrymandering, which is actually supposed to be a political, a criminal offense. Actually, gerrymandering is supposed to be a criminal offense. But they've been able to do it, get away with it, and this rule is now being enforced. Okay, and let me see. And Roslyn Marston says, "This is the first time I see this. Are you in the UK? Are you in the UK?" TBTB says, "Only your signature has to match." Okay, right. And And in USA, you need voter's card or driver's license for verification, but you must register to vote. Hmm. Okay. Well, in this case, it's that what has happened is that they said photo ID, but apparently they didn't include the veteran's photo ID as an acceptable ID. So the veterans got to the polling booths and were turned back and prevented from voting using their veteran ID cards. And a guy, he uh, politely complained on Twitter. I love his complaint though. Um, what did he say? I love his complaint. because he just gently said, I'm not one for complaining, but I'm gutted. I spent 27 years in the army, and today I was going to vote in my local elections. I was sadly turned away at the door as my veteran ID was not allowed as formal ID. How does veteran ID, how is veteran ID not allowed? Can you imagine how many hoops you have to jump to get the veteran's ID? Anyway, the legislation did not include it, and therefore they were barred from using their veteran ID as a acceptable ID. Canada, we pre-register. Lovewind says Canada, we pre-register through our taxes. We receive a voting card with our polling station. We bring that card and our ID to the station. No signatures ever. Considered unreliable for Gen X and males. Right. So he has promised though that he is going to do something about it. And just listening to his language and seeing how he moves, it got me curious about him because he responded to the guy who complained on Twitter and he said, I would like you to go out tomorrow and vote conservative in Plymouth. If you want to vote Labour, I disagree with you, but respect your different view. I am neither racist nor white supremacist. This is too far. West had a tough week, but he should retract this. So his language is normal. He sounds like he's a normal human being, and he hasn't been swept away by the need to be sycophantic in the way he deals with issues. So I got more curious. This is why I said I went down the rabbit hole. I Googled him and I found his personal website. This must have been something that he put together when he was campaigning for his position as MP of Plymouth, because that's what he is. He actually started off as MP in Plymouth, and he says, fighting in the Afghanistan war, I was fed up of politicians who said one thing and did another when it came to looking after our service personnel and veterans. I'd never voted before and I knew nothing about local politics, but I knew that Plymouthians deserved better than another stuffed shirt representing their party in Plymouth instead of representing Plymouth in Westminster. I was given no chance of winning. My party had never won my seat before. But I bought a van, printed up leaflets, and with my brilliant wife knocked on every door in our city to win the seat in 2015. So he's been an MP since 2015. Having built my majority further at two successive elections in 2017 and 2019, I now have the largest majority of any politician from any party has had ever had in my seat. How? Because I put you first. Who speaks like that? Harry. So he's speaking Harry's language, and I see why they're friends now. He said, the people of Plymouth who do me the honor of voting for me are my number one inspiration for all my campaigning. I love Plymouth. I've been in the area for 20 years now. I have three young children, and I'm determined to make this the best city in the UK to live, work, and raise a family. And these are his three children, his wife, and kids. He's and I went further. Somehow, sometimes when I go through the uh go into the rabbit hole, it's really difficult to come back out. So he says, starting off his professional life, Johnny served 13 years in the UK Commandos, serving from tactical to the strategic level throughout a career across the globe, including multiple combat operations at the height of the Afghanistan conflict. Unwilling to accept the UK's treatment of his generation of military veterans, Johnny stood as member of MP a member of parliament in 2015, despite never having voted before. Working on building sites, he self funded a campaign that saw him working on building sites. Did you hear that? He self funded a campaign that saw him win his seat, having been given a less than 1% chance by the bookies. His maiden speech to the House of Commons was acclaimed around the world and marked the start of his parliamentary career. He served on both the Defense and Health Select Committees, chairing inquiries into historical prosecutions of servicemen and women and the misuse of prescription drugs, before campaigning and subsequently creating the UK's first Office for Veterans Affairs under Prime Minister Boris Johnson in 2019. If there's one thing that Boris Johnson ever did right while he was in office, this was it right here. So, uh, but despite all those lovely things that have been said about him before now, he says Johnny was sacked from government in April 2021 after refusing to pass legislation that did not protect Northern Ireland veterans from repeated and vexatious prosecutions from the Troubles. Campaigning for these veterans both in London and Belfast, he has ensured that this historical injustice has been corrected with the Northern Ireland Troubles Act 2023. So in July 2022, Johnny was appointed Minister for Veterans Affairs. This established the UK's first position in cabinet representing veterans, putting our country in line with peer nations such as USA and Australia in how they prioritize veterans care. He was sworn into the Privy Council. So, just like Harry, he is also on the Privy Council, and he is now the Right Honorable Johnny Mercer MP. So, guys, how you can see how he first of all he's friends with Harry because they have similar principles, life principles, and you can also see why he's been campaigning to bring the Invictus Games to the UK. Seems to me he's one of those kind of people who would like to campaign, change things from within. The position he has taken to me just seems to be the most difficult one because it just seems easier to do what Harry did, which is to relocate. Harry's own position was kind of different because his life was put in jeopardy. But uh I think but he's one of those kind of people who feels that the best thing to do is to fight to change things from within. And even if he's the only one on his own side, which is kind of admirable because the truth of the matter is that not everyone can up and leave. Harry's situation is completely understandable. But if we only take the position that we would only lean into the places that agree with us, then we're left with a dual dimensional kind of life, whereas it should be multidimensional. Just like in the UK now, well, for a long time, it was a two-party country, just the Conservatives and the Labour. But at the moment, they have the Green Party, they've got the Liberal Democrats, they've got the Conservatives, and they have got the Labour Party. And his own point is, well, I'm fighting to bring I'm fighting to make changes for the veterans, and I am focused on the veterans. Forget about all the other issues alongside, but if I can bring the Invictus Games to the UK, perhaps in some way we'll be able to. win other people over step by step. So he's a campaigner. I can also see how he has gotten this far in the process. Um, I can also see how they've gotten this far in. He has gotten this far in the process as to be shortlisted. I really do not wish for the Invictus Games to come to the UK, but I think he's doing his own bit to make changes from the UK, from within the UK. I saw. Let's see. Let me see your comments. So you still UK will have to wait until the bad attitude changes another 10 years, maybe. and TBTB says it's a beautiful life. Once you vote by listing your name, your signature is checked at the registration office. You do not need ID to vote. Okay. Johnny seems to be a nice man, but lacks a deeper understanding of Harry's situation. Is he being used by the UK government? And precisely because of this point of view that I took the time to do the deep dive, I think it is very possible to be that he is the kind of person who doesn't agree with the way things have happened and believes that he can make a change from within. This is what I think. Uh, I know a lot of people in America would not agree because basically the toxic British media has made it seem as though everyone in the UK is fighting against Harry and Meghan. But don't forget, for instance, that I'm in the UK, so not everyone is fighting against Harry and Meghan. And I think he is doing the best that he can. Pardon me. Um, right. So, let me see. And TBTB says Harry is giving them every chance to change. He's leaving nothing out. They cannot say he did not try. Yes, absolutely. I agree. I agree. He's giving them every opportunity to change their ways, but uh it is unlikely that they will change unless something really drastic happens. Um But I love the way that Harry and Meghan have handled everything from the beginning up to this point because they have always taken the higher position. They've all when they go high, then the British media go to hell all the time. So I'm in the UK and I am with Harry and Meghan all the way. Yay! Fellow UKer, fellow Briton who is with Harry and Meghan all the way. And so he's doing his bit in the hope that um he can make a change happen. And if you are in government, if you are in the system, it seems like that's what you have to do. Like, okay, you said that this is what we have to do in order to make changes, right? Okay. So I am following the rules. So how come? And if you think about it, he's already gotten, I think, about 26 million pounds for the Invictus Games, which means that he has acquired some power within the government. After all, he is the veterans minister. So he's doing what he's supposed to do. It's on the government and the public, really, to see whether he'll be able to achieve it. But This is what I'm saying. Can Johnny Mercer seal the deal? Because we can't just say really. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't want to hear that, but we can't just say we're going to stop trying to change things from within the UK just because the British media are so horrible. And this is why I think there are certain people who would say on Twitter and a lot of places, why are you paying attention to these articles? Because the people who can from within the UK need to be able to do what they can to push back. And I'm just talking so much about this just because to show you that he is one of those people who is doing what he can. Undoubtedly do not want the Invictus Games to come to the UK, at least not now. Let Harry be a billionaire in tens of millions, then we can talk. But for the moment, yeah, this is an effort that someone is making to change things from within the UK. Does that make sense? Um, Cookies and Cream says it seems really odd that the UK ended up on the shortlist for the IG 2027. The IG has a service that's taking place in the UK in May. It's just too coincidental. He's a good campaigner. What can I say? I don't know. Mm, he's a good campaigner. What can I say? I don't like the fact that the South Korea also um, didn't win a place on the shortlist, but it depends on how many strings can be pulled, I suppose, in terms of voting. Joanne Baker says, how can you make changes from within when the sharks are all around circling? I don't know, my love. The alternative is to give up. And what about those people who are not of the same mind as those as the right wing media or the right wing part of the public? Do we give up then? Harry is being very strategic in supporting his friend's attempt to change the UK. 26 million is not enough to create the Invictus infrastructure in Birmingham. They will bomb after Germany's success. I agree with that as well because he cannot. You see, I think uh, a lot of us would prefer that Harry and Meghan just move in a way that is very knee jerk. Right, you've done this to me, so I'm going to do this, which is mirroring your action exactly. But they've been very diplomatic in the way they have done things because they put a lot of stuff into consideration. They can afford to, they've got a lot of advisors, they're getting a lot of help, and they're able to manage their emotions. And it's because of that they're able to say, right, let us, right, we know these people are not ish, but let us give them a very long rope that exposes. And because of the way they've carried themselves, they've been able to turn things around so that those people, who are um, who were on the fence about Harry and Meghan, they've been able to watch Harry and Meghan be quiet, be very strategic in how they move, and they've been able to make a decision for themselves because they've always kept themselves on the right path in terms of how they react to things. Like, for instance, if immediately after the Queen died, they decided, or let's even go further and say, if after the the if after they stepped back, they decided to flick their hands at the British royal family, even though they were justified in doing so. they wouldn't have found out a lot of the information that they forgot to find out later. They had to behave as if they were going along, they were conciliatory, they were still open to a relationship. And that allowed the media to overplay their hand to the point that it became glaringly obvious to everyone that, oh, Harry and Meghan have been saying this, it's actually a smear campaign. And they're doing a lot of stuff because it's uh, for history's sake, so that they can go back and say, well, we did try it. Look at this. This is what we did. The records will bear them witness that they did make every effort to do what they could. And so, but they wouldn't cooperate because they were too petty to do so. So, in every respect, actually, for two people who were just 40 years old, 40, Megan is 41, 42 years old, and Harry is going to be 40 this year, they have actually acted wiser than their age, which is why I say they're able to do so because they've got a lot of help. And because they've got a lot of help, they're able to work out their frustrations, but still do the best thing for this situation, which has been rather strategic because regardless of whether we like the royal family or not, they are still, well, for all intents and purposes, according to the narrative that they've put out there, they are still a hugely powerful organization, the British royal family, right? And that's what they're up against. So, Cookies and Cream said, Harry is a very intelligent man. I trust his judgment. However, this is all too suspicious. It's not safe for the Sussexes in the UK right now. There is too much hate being pushed by the royals. Yep, yep. But on the sorry, I'm not trying to get you guys riled up. I find that anytime I enter the spaces, for instance, which is mainly 95.5% um, American people, which is fine. But the only reason why it becomes important to identify who you're talking to is because you find that a certain group of people think in a particular way. And then when somebody else who is not from that same group brings forth an opinion which is different, it gives a different perspective, it expands the perspective. And so they always they are almost always throwing their shoes at me because but after they calm down, they're like, "Do you know what? I never really thought about it that way." So, um what if, because this situation with Harry and Meghan is almost similar to what I would even say is the civil rights movement. They're fighting for their rights to live their lives. Would they be successful if they run completely away? This is not just a decision of how to live their lives, but it's also a mission. So I agree with everybody who is saying, I have not said that I want the Invictus Games to come to the UK, but the larger discussion is around the question of when it would be right to bring the Invictus Games to the UK. Should we run away just because? And this is why I have said before that this is why I believe Harry and Meghan want to work hard and get bigger and richer, just because they need to be able to attain a certain height to be able to move safely in the world that we're living in, where they've got a whole organization like the British royal family working against them. And if they do so, they would be the first people to win against the royal family. As a matter of fact, everyone who has tried has folded before now because through one scandal or the other, they've been able to bring that person down. Think back to Fergie, think back to Princess Diana, even. who they were able to smear her a bit because they were saying she was having so many relationships after she divorced. She had affairs, they said. I'm not saying she had affairs. I'm saying they said she had affairs. And after the divorce, also, she had relationships. So, let me look at your comments. Gwen, mm, uh, Arrington W says if the UK media does a full-scale hate campaign instead of seeing how Invictus could help UK's economy, then Harry would be justified in moving the whole Invictus org to the USA. I I doubt he would do that. It's a mission. When Daniel says William absolutely can't still be trusted, still say he did more than was told, agree. I heard John Mercer's reasoning for hosting the UK's, and it was anti ethical to the mission of the Invictus Games. Okay. I didn't hear it. I will go and look for that. Uh, Perhaps that's the reason why it wasn't just an express decision to give the Invictus Games to the UK. And I'm sure that whatever he might have said, he still has to comply with what Invictus Games wants. Even though Harry is from the UK, it's his organization, albeit through the foundation of Invictus Games, and they are going to have to comply with what Invictus Games wants. The most powerful royal family is living in heaven, and they are the ones I'm concerned with. What they say count, not the ones here. Yep, yep. It is because the UK is looking okay. Uh, I would like to read that for two videos I'm producing right now. Do you know where you read that? I would appreciate the referral. Yep. Don't know if Casey will be around in 2027. A king will not would be nightmare for Meghan if the game it will be a nightmare for Harry as well. That is actually a point that see and that is a point I didn't actually think about it to that extent. Whether King Charles will be around in 2027, ooh, that's macabre. But you're absolutely right. Who knows whether King Charles will be around in 2027? But in is he any better? I think he's just as bad as William, albeit by omission. He might not be doing anything, but he certainly will cause allow things to happen by not stepping up to guarantee protection. It was on one of the GB talk shows. He was sitting with a past participant in the Invictus Games in Germany. Okay, okay. Hello, Sussex Love. Great to see you. Hello, Lady Rose. How are you? Right. Uh The Invictus Games is bigger than John Mercer. The UK government and royal family have shown and demonstrated at this time they are untrustworthy. I agree with you. I agree with you. He sounded like Donald Trump lingo, England first, leading all the nations, blah, blah, blah. Um, it's too soon for Invictus Games to be brought to the UK. Agree. Harry has court cases against the tabloids. He's fighting to get and pay for security for his family. The Unroyals have a one-sided war against them. Agree, agree. I do not disagree. What I don't agree with, though, is whether Harry will pack up Invictus Games. The battle will continue for change to be made so that Invictus Games will eventually be able to be brought to the UK. As much as We do not like it. As I said, this is at a point, is going to get to a point where it's no longer personal for Harry and Meghan. It's just like the civil rights movement. They are fighting for their rights to live, and the UK government have to be okay with it. And Lady Rose says, doing good, Wizzy. I'm just here minding my black lady business. Puppy love, Charles is worse than them all. He's a father. No one could let me treat my son like that. Like, literally, no one. Like, literally, no one. No one. Wheezy, do you think UK citizens would support the games fully and volunteer? I absolutely do. I'm a UK citizen. I would absolutely support. The media doesn't represent the people of the UK. Don't forget, they're just the ones with the loudest voices. And there's actually a lady on Twitter who is constantly campaigning and saying, because everyone in the UK gets lumped into the box of toxic British media. But the point is that nothing's going to change if we keep lumping everyone into the box, if we don't begin to do what we can do to make changes. Then how would things change? That's not really you guys' problem. But when things like this come up, it is a part of the conversation, is all I'm saying. All right. So, anyway, Invictus Games Foundation did a poll, and this is where things stand on Twitter at the moment. They said, we have announced our shortlist of cities to be the potential hosts of the 8th edition of the Invictus Games. Washington, D.C., 88.2%. Birmingham, UK, 11.8%. So far, 6,000 people have voted. Hey, Connie Barmer, thanks for coming. Good night. Anyway, as I fully expected, this was going to be a larger conversation. Bonzola Adam said, I voted. I did too, and I voted for Washington. Little Mark says, I think most in the UK are neutral about Harry and Meghan, but the British media, the royal family, and the police are very much in power and could make the 2027 games a complete disaster. Agree, agree. And we're talking about when Harry and Meghan are billionaires, and I believe that that should happen very soon. Very soon. Eh, Washington, D.C. for the moment, but definitely hoping that this situation changes. Situation changes. Yep, yep, yep. Anyway, as I said, this is the first of two videos that I have got ready for today. So that's all I have for this video. And I'm going to be moving to the next video in the next 5 minutes. Can I speak? I'm going to be moving to the next video in the next 5 minutes. So this is me signing out from this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay. And Isabella Hunt, no change will be had if the media is not stopped. The media is responsible for all the hell the UK is going through, and it wasn't just when Meghan came onto the scene. I agree. Let's discuss that in the next video coming up. I'm going to see you there in the next 5 minutes. Okay. Come over to that one so that we can continue the conversation. All right. See you in a bit.